So a while ago, like I told you, I was asked to join this initiative of Dayanim who would be willing to convert people, an alternative viewer process. And for a while I was hesitant. And I still am hesitant, but something happened to me today. I'm done with being hesitant.
You mean the one that you and Rabbi Parrott set up, or the alternate?
No, that's
one
our own. That's
You're still doing that. Okay.
Yeah, of course. This is a network of independent rabbis who agree to abide to certain standards and to accept each other's conversions, regardless of what the political arena will say about them.
To basically build a groundswell of an alternate scenario.
If there's enough people doing it, then there's only so much you could do to stop it. That's the mentality behind it. These are all competent rabbis who've been doing conversion, who know it, and they just don't fall into whatever criteria whatever mafias would want you to fall under. So I a few months ago, I had somebody approach me. They wanted to. It's funny. Ever since I got back from Israel, not even a few months, but things intensified. But somebody came over to me to speak. They were referred to me by another Orthodox rabbi, who just doesn't know the things of Gibeah. I heard them now. I do it. So he referred this person my way. After speaking to this person, I told them that they're very young. There's a lot going for them. They probably will still get married and will have children, and maybe they want to make aliyah. And I said the proper thing for you to do, even if it's not what my heart tells me to do, is just go through the system. Because you don't want to have to deal with getting who's going to marry you, and then your children, and then you can make aliyah, and no one's going to want you. And I'd rather, even though you'll have some heartache now, it's probably better to have your heartache when you're single than heartache when you have a family and kids and trying to make aliyah to Israel. And so it was a difficult thing because he really wanted to do it with me, with my parents. Okay, but it made sense. That was the right thing to do. And so he approached another bedin somewhere else, and
So he was set on the fast track, basically.
right. He was. The background of this person is this person came to me after a number of years being involved in all kinds of other religions, and at a certain point was almost ordained a priest, like a person who knew his religion very well. And when he made that decision to become Jewish, he knew his Judaism very well. He realized this is the truth. That person who I would. Sorry.
Fun.
I got a message today from this person telling me that they don't know what to do. They approach the other bedin, and all they want is $1,000 fee over here, and a $500 fee over there, and a tutoring cost of $60 over here, and $80 over there, and they said they didn't come all the way to become Jewish. If that was the whole attitude towards religion. On the other hand, my advice that was given of don't convert, try to convert first through the regular system. This person made a decision today just not to convert at all.
What is it?
That was the decision.
No.
They're just not gonna. They're not sure that it's the right thing.
No, he doesn't want to convert.
It wants to. So he didn't leave Christianity. This is the next sentence. He didn't leave Christianity to come to another religion that doesn't follow the Torah.
Oh my.
And those words broke my heart today. I've been like, I cannot tell you the feeling that has been going through here. I didn't leave another religion to come to Judaism where they don't follow the Torah. That's
I don't want to say the name. Is that the guy we...
nobody was here.
He wanted to be both.
What?
He wanted to be Jew and Christian both.
No, he wanted to be
No,
Jewish.
he wants to be Jewish, but it's not.
But what can I do that the people who are making people Jewish don't follow Judaism?
It's also, you can't get people into anything ultimately that violates their personal integrity and makes them be something they're not or pretend they're something they're not.
Correct.
And that's a big problem too, the other end of the
On the other
stick.
hand, that not being able to be recognized as a Jew is very difficult. I can't even imagine what a person goes through in such a situation.
When they've decided that they want to do it and they can't be recognized, or they've already gone through.
They've gone through a process. They
And
worked.
they're saying
They've
it's
showed their
illegitimate.
commitment. And politics are going to stop. The teaching my wife just sent over to me. I'll read it to you.
This is more work for us to do.
The more
Make it
people
better.
do the alternate route, like the traditional route, the less evidence there'll be that it's not okay. I sent you an email today. Did you get it?
Megillat Ruth says, "Vayhi b'mei shvot hashoftim." It was in the day of the judgment of judges, or the judges who judged. The Gemara in Bava Batra asks, "Ita, Shmuel katav sifro, v'shoftim v'Ruth." Okay, that's not what I meant to do. They say whenever it says "Vayhi" in the Torah, it means something bad.
Which order?
Vayhi. Like Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh. It wasn't the
By
days
he
of
be
Achashverosh.
saw a road.
But not like Vihi,
Very
or
good. So
Vihi
there are
Boker.
obviously times where that
Oh, yeah.
doesn't mean Vayhi is a bad thing. It means almost a general rule, almost. And there are some good Vayhis. Vayhi is the way the word Pashat Noach starts off with. Certain places you see Vayhi, that means something bad is about to happen. So what does it mean the day where the judges were judged? The days of Shmuel, when the story Shmuel wrote it, but when the story of Ruth happened. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, why does it say the generation where the judges were judged? Dor sheshafat shoftav. It was a generation where people, lay people, were able to critique the Jewish judges. Hashofet hayomer tol kesa miben shinecha. When the judge would tell a person, "You, I'm rebuking you. Take that toothpick out from between your eyes," meaning a small little twig. Get rid of that. It's bad for you. It's it's going to destroy your life. What would the person respond back to the rabbi? He would say, "Tol korah mi ben enecha." He said, "Get rid of the wooden beam that's hanging in between your eyes." Meaning, you're rebuking me for something that you're guilty of, and not just guilty of, but you're the head of. You have a rabbi tells, "Don't steal, don't steal, don't steal," and he's the biggest ganav in town. It's like you're going to tell me not to steal? You? That's what kind of
Nobody
chutzpah?
trusts the judges. Nobody.
I mean, lay people were able to see such perversion in judgment. Because that's the reason this generation fell down. And the Gemara continues. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, "Im reita dor." If the Gemara didn't say this, I would never read such a thing. "Im reita dor." If you see a generation, shetzarot rabot baot alav. You see the terrible things are happening to that generation. Terrible calamities. Tzeh uvdok b'shoftei Yisrael. Go and check who are the judges who are judging the Jewish people. Shekol puranut sheba la'olam, because every tragedy that comes to the world, lo ba ela b'shvil shoftei Yisrael, only becomes because of the judges who are judging the Jewish people.
What text is this?
It's a Gemara Masechet Shabbat. The Gemara also says in Masechet Shabbat, "Ba'avon inui hadin, v'ivut hadin, v'kilkul hadin." 3 different forms of perversion of judgment. Whenever there's perversion of judgment in a bedin, cherev ba la'olam, sword, war comes to the world. U'batzoret ba, famine comes to the world. Uvnei adam muchlim el tzveim, people have food to eat, but they're never satisfied. Whenever there's a problem happening in the generation, our rabbis tell us it's the fault of the rabbis of the generation. There's a book called Tanat V'Eliyahu. Tanat V'Eliyahu is supposedly written by Eliyahu Navi and recorded by Rabbi Yonatan. The Gemara says, "Otam 70,000 sheneharagu b'Givat Binyamin." Do you remember this war in Binyamin? Someone knows Tanakh here well?
Where Binyamin, and then land on the other side of the Jordan.
There was a war, a civil war in the Jewish people.
That's when Judea and Israel were separated.
But tell me what happens here in this war. Do you guys remember?
It was involving the Sanhedrin, wasn't it? Yeah.
There's a lot of wars that went on
It's like people not liking the way
during
the
the session.
corruption in the in sacrifices, and Kohanim started to be.
Well, especially in the Second Temple era, and when the 2 parts of Israel were split, there were a lot of wars that went on. A lot of corruption, a lot of... sometimes had a good king, sometimes corrupt king, a lot of idol worship.
Another story of the Pilegesh and the Gibeah? The concubine.
And the...
Remember this story? And it was in those days there was no king in Israel. It happened that there was a Levite man who dwelled in the foothills of Mount Ephraim. He married a concubine wife from Bethlehem of Yehudah. His concubine deserted him and left him for her father's house in Bethlehem of Yehudah.
It's a concubine and what?
A concubine is not a wife, it's a...
Oh, this is, why are you
Surrogate.
saying both words?
And she remained there for a period of 4 months. Then her husband rose up and went after her to cajole her, to bring her back. His attendant was with him as well as a pair of donkeys. She brought him into her father's house. The father of the girl saw him and greeted him gladly. His father-in-law, the father of the girl, detained him, and he stayed with him for 3 days. They ate and drank and lodged there. It happened on the 4th day that they arose early in the morning, and he rose up to leave. But the father of the girl said to his son-in-law, "Sustain yourself with some bread and go afterwards." So they both sat and ate and drank together. The father of the girl then said to the man, "Please agree to stay overnight so that your heart will be at ease." The man rose up to leave, but his father-in-law pressed him. And he spent the night there once again. He arose early in the morning on the 5th day to go, but the father of the girl said, "Sustain yourself now and wait until afternoon." So the two of them ate. When the man rose up to go, he and his concubine, his attendant, his father-in-law, the father of the girl, said to him, "See now, the sun is waning and is about to set. Please stay overnight." And he keeps doing it. But the man would not consent to stay overnight, and he rose up and left. He arrived as far as opposite Yevus, which is Yerushalayim. With him were a pair of laden donkeys, and his concubine was with him. They were near Yevus when the sun was very low, so the attendant said to his master, "Come, let us turn into this Yevusi city and spend the night in it." But his master said to him, "Let us not turn into a city of foreign people who are not of the children of Israel. Let us pass on to Gibeah." He said to his attendant, "Come, let us approach one of the Jewish places, and we will spend the night in Gibeah in the Ramah." So they passed Yevus and went on, and the sun set upon them near Gibeah of Binyamin, so near the mount of Binyamin. They turned there to come and spend the night in Gibeah. He entered and sat in the town square, but no one brought them into a home to spend the night. Like a shul in some places. Just then an old man came from his work from the field in the evening. The man was from Mount Ephraim, but he was living in Gibeah. The local people were Binyamin. They were from the tribe of, they were Benjamites.
And the travelers have decided that they want to stay there because they'd rather stay in a Jewish place
Correct, than a non-Jewish place. When he raised his eyes and saw the traveler in the town square, the man said, "Where are you headed? From where have you come?" He answered him, "We are passing from Bethlehem Yehudah to the foothills of Mount Ephraim. I am from there. I went to Bethlehem of Yehudah and I am headed for the house of Hashem. And no man is bringing me into his home. We even have straw and fodder for our donkeys, and there is even bread and wine for me and your maidservant and the boy who is with your servant. Not a thing is lacking." Meaning, I'm not asking for anything except for a safe place to be. The old man said, "Peace be with you. However, all your provisions shall be upon me. Just don't spend the night in the town square." He brought them to his house and prepared food for the donkeys. They washed their feet, ate and drank, and as they were feeling merry, behold, people of the city, lawless people, surrounded the house, banging on the door and saying to the old man, does that story sounds familiar?
Sodom.
The owner of the house, "Send out the man who came to your house so that we may know him." Whenever the Tanakh says they may know him, they don't just want to say, "Hi, shalom lechem." The man who was the owner of the house went out to them.
There won't be any man left after that.
He said, "No, my brothers, do not be wicked. Since this man has come to my house, do not do this disgusting thing. Here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out, and you may molest them and do to them whatever you please. But do not do this disgusting
In
thing
a
to this
Jewish
man."
city.
So do not do this disgusting thing to this man. But the men were not willing to listen to him. The man grabbed his concubine and thrust her outside to them. They knew her and they molested her all night long until the morning.
God forbid.
They sent her away as the dawn began to break. So people always tell me, we wish we went back to the days where everybody was righteous. Nobody reads Tanakh anymore. Nobody reads Tanakh.
That's the right thing to do. You don't have to do the right
You wouldn't
thing.
think like a Jewish neshama.
The woman arrived towards morning and collapsed at the door of the man's house where her master was staying until it was light. Her master got up in the morning, opened the doors of his house, and left to go on his way, and behold, his concubine wife was fallen at the entrance of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let us go." But there was no answer. He took her upon the donkey, and then the man got up and went to his place. When he arrived in the house, look, it's a crazy story. When he arrived at the house, it's one of the most tragic stories in the Tanakh. The rabbis have written so much about the story, and the fact that most often when I quote to people, "Have you heard of the story?" Vaguely, somebody knows something about it. When he arrived in his house, he took a knife and took hold of his concubine. She was dead, you understand from the story. He sliced her body limb by limb into 12 pieces and sent her parts throughout all the borders of Israel.
Oh, God.
It happened that whoever saw it said, "Such a thing has never happened, nor been since the day the children of Israel went up from the land of Egypt to this day. You must contemplate this, take counsel, and speak up." So he was sending to every tribe of the Jewish people, "Can you believe that this thing happened in your people?" All the children of Israel went out, and the assembly gathered together, a single man from Dan to Beersheba, and land of Gilad to Hashem and Mitzpah. The chief of all the people, all the tribes stood in the congregation of the people of Hashem, 400,000 sword-wielding foot soldiers. The children of Binyamin heard the children of Israel had gone up to Mitzvah. The children of Israel said, tell us, how did this happen? The Levi men, they tell over the story.
What is so special about 400 all the time?
It's a good question, what that number means. The numbers in Tanakh, all, what do they mean?
400.
Good. Yeah, good point.
All the tribes got together. All the tribes got together. The tribes of Israel then sent men through all the clans of Binyamin saying, what is this outrage that occurred among you? Now turn over the lawless men who are in Gibeah, and we will put them to death and eliminate the evil from Israel. So the entire Jewish people got together. They put together an army to go and avenge the blood of this girl. The children of Binyamin refused to heed to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. The children of Binyamin were gathered together from the cities to Gibeah to go out to war with the children of Israel. And the children of Binyamin were ready to go to war and to fight. We're not letting them go. We're not giving up our brothers. The children of Binyamin from the cities were numbered that day at 26,000 sword-wielding men. Wielding? They write wielding.
Wielding.
Carrying, he's like,
Besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered at 700 choice men. Among all these people were 700 being beaten, and the men of Israel, choice left-handed men, all of whom could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Besides Binyamin, the men of Israel were numbered at 400,000 sword-wielding men. All of these were warriors. They got up to Bethel and inquired of Hashem. The children of Israel said, who among us should advance first to wage war against the children of Binyamin? Hashem answered, Yehudah should be first. And there's a war. There's a first encounter, Binyamin is victorious. The second encounter,
answered that they were using
Hashem
word
meaning
to
their
word?
as that we move to men. The second encounter, Binyamin was victorious. The third encounter, the children of Israel were successful
It's successful
in conquering over they won that battle. And there's a lot of details here in Tanakh. Who ambushed who, where were they withdrawing, where were they retreating, where were they going? And none of this is relevant to my discussion right now. 18,000 men of Binyamin fell, all of them men of valor. Others turned and fled to the desert, to the rocks of Rimmon. The children of Israel killed the stragglers on the roads, 5,000 men, and they overtook them until Gidom, where they struck down of them the 2,000 men. Have anyone ever heard of the civil war in Jewish history? Meaning this, I can't believe this is not discussed at all. All those who fell from Binyamin on that day were 25,000 sword-wielding men, all of them men of valor. 600 men turned and fled to the desert, to the rock of Rimmon, and they stayed at the rock of Rimmon for 4 months. The men of Israel went back to the children of Binyamin and struck them down by the edge of the sword, from the populated cities to animals to everything else that was found. Also, all the cities that they discovered, they set on fire. The men of Israel had taken an oath in Mitzvah, saying, none of us will give his daughter as a wife to Binyamin. We're never marrying into this tribe again. The people came to Bethel and remained there until evening before Hashem. They raised their voices and wept in a loud lament. They said, why, Hashem, God of Israel, does this happen in Israel? The one tribe of Israel should be missing in Israel today. It happened on the following day that the people arose early and built an altar there, and they offered elevation offerings and peace offerings. The children of Israel said, from among all the tribes of Israel, who did not come up to the assembly of Hashem? From there had been a great oath against anyone who would not come up to Hashem to Mitzvah, saying he should surely be put to death. Okay, they keep going. This is
It's almost as bad as the Tisha B'Av reading.
it's one of the things I learn almost every year at the Shabbat here. The congregation sent 12,000 men of valor there. They had a whole conversation here. They ended up making peace. The entire congregation, the messengers spoke with the children of Binyamin, who were at the rock of Rimmon. They called them to peace. So Binyamin returned at that time. They gave them women whom they had spared of the woman of Gibeah, but they were not sufficient for them. Okay, there's here a story that happens here. This ends off here in the Tanakh, in this verse.
There is no law, no king, no justice system.
In those days, the chapter ends in Shoftim. In those days, there was no king in Israel. A man would do whatever seemed proper in his eyes.
Proper.
This is like Judaism today. There's no king in Israel. Everybody feels they can do whatever they want. And ironically, it's the chief rabbinate that encourages these words the most. They bring this out. Oh, see what, you just be a rabbi, do whatever you want. You don't submit yourself to the system. It's almost like this verse was written at a time when corruption was at its highest. Do you want to know who the rabbis blamed for the story? It's not the people of Gilad, and it's not the people of Binyamin, it's not the people, they don't blame anybody in the story. The rabbis write the following. Tanad Eliyahu Navi records the following. These are the opening words to Rav Peretz's book on how to be a rabbi. Otam 70,000 shnei hargu b'Givat Binyamin. The 70,000 people who died at Mount Binyamin. Why were they killed? לפי שהיה להם לסנהדרי גדולה שהניח משה ויהושע ופנחס בן אלעזר עמהם. Because that Sanhedrin, that great Sanhedrin, that Moshe, Yoshua, and Pinchas ben Elazar had established. היה להם ללך ולקשור חברים של ברזל במותניהם ולהגביה בגדיהם. It was incumbent upon the Sanhedrin to, it uses terms, lift up their robes and gird their loins with iron. ויחזרו בכל עיירות ישראל. They should make themselves their job to travel throughout all the cities of the Jewish people. יום אחד ללכיש, one day to לכיש. יום אחד לבית אל, one day to בית אל. יום אחד לחברון, one day to חברון. יום אחד לירושלים. וכן בכל מקומות ישראל, they should have traveled through all the cities of Israel. וילמדו את ישראל דרך ארץ. And it was their job to teach the Jewish people דרך ארץ. Notice it doesn't say here Hilchot Shabbat. It doesn't say here the laws of tefillin. It doesn't say here to how to check your letters for bugs. It says here to teach the people of Israel derech eretz. B'shana, it would take them a year. Uv'shatayim, maybe 2 years. Uv'shalosh, maybe 3 years. Ad she'yashvu Yisrael b'artzam, in order so the Jewish people could settle into their land. Kedei she'tgadel v'tkadesh Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'olamot kulan sheba misof ha'olam v'ad sovo. So that Hashem would be able to finally have nachat from the Jewish people, and they would create a society which would cause a Kiddush Hashem in this world and throughout all the worlds. V'hem nasukin. But the rabbis of that generation, that's not what they did. Elek shechnesu la'artzam, when they entered the land of Israel, kol echad v'echad mem nichnas l'karmo v'le'enov v'lesadehu. Every one of them went into their own vineyard and their own house and their own wine and their own field. V'omrim shalom alecha nafshi. And they say to my neshama, shalom alecha, my soul, I'm taking care of. I'm doing what it is that I need to do. Everybody was content with what it was that they were doing. I had a couple here last year who came to talk to me about whatever marital problems I had. I didn't know these people from a fly on the wall. I never met them in my life. Why did they come to me? They went to another synagogue to ask the rabbi for advice. A synagogue that they go to. And the rabbi there told them that he's sorry, but they don't pay membership at his synagogue, so he's not interested in counseling them.
Oh.
Oh, what?
That's a
But
Sodom
You
attitude.
mean somebody actually said that?
The rabbi.
Oh.
The rabbi told him he's not interested in counseling them because they don't pay membership to his synagogue. So instead, I find myself here with 2 strangers. How much money I made off that meeting? Nothing. A few days of my life I lost, but Baruch Hashem, I'm not a righteous person in this story. I don't even know that I helped them. I don't even know what happened to them.
So you counseled this couple?
I tried.
Over a couple
They
of
needed
days?
something more than a rabbi.
I understand.
Oh,
But
that is the
But
problem.
what kind of answer is that? You don't pay membership in my synagogue. I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every rabbi has his problems and his challenges, and sometimes we're always busy, and there are those days where we don't get to answer the phone. Trust me, I'm familiar with those things. But there's how content can you be with what it is that you're doing? How can I only have to worry about the people in my field?
But what about the kollel situation, where I know you were advised at one point to just learn, not be a rabbi. And what's the role of someone learning all the time if they're not giving back to other people?
That role, in their opinion, it's some metaphysical, spiritual. We're holding up
We're
the
holding
world.
up the world, yeah.
Right. It's a
Right.
very
But
self-inflated.
if this is a
inflated
world
ego.
of asiyah, if this is a world of action, it's like that becomes kind of divorced from reality.
I went to Kollel where nobody stayed there forever.
Right.
And even those who stayed there for a long time, those are the ones that I call when I can't get Rabbi Peretz on the phone. Meaning they serve as a resource to me and other rabbis that are out in the world doing whatever it is that we
They're
do.
advanced.
Right, like exactly. They
There's areas of
Rabbi
specialization.
Peretz was once in such a place, and they said, where are the poskim of the Jewish people going to come from if we all leave yeshiva at 25 and become rabbis? The Peretz took out a Shulchan Aruch and started asking them questions about the laws of washing your hands in the morning. Everybody in the room
Chapter
failed.
one.
Everyone in the room
Olive.
failed the test.
Oh,
He
wow.
said, "Don't lie to me. Don't tell me you're becoming the next poskim of the Jewish people. The first chapter of Shulchan Aruch, you don't know. So stop pretending. Tell it as it is. You're selfish people." Now, of course, Rabbi Peretz should ask him. Rabbi Peretz said learning Torah is the greatest thing in the world. I said, what should a person who learns Torah do? He says, this person who learns Torah should find himself a community, find himself and be a rabbi. He doesn't. This whole concept of just sitting is not a.
Yeah, it's like having a knowledge that you don't put to use. It's like a doctor going to
Sure,
medical
repair-
school and never practicing medicine.
Repairts once told me that he's jealous of me.
Huh.
You're jealous of me.
'Cause you-
He said, because I'm not a rabbi of the community. He said, I don't have the schiyot of teaching people Torah. I said, it's exaggeration. You're the one who makes the rabbis of the community. He said, it's still. He said, he would, and he said, just find me a place that I can come teach Torah. And, Repair teaches about, I don't know the number of classes, but maybe 20, 25 classes a week. In different shuls, in different cities, in different travels. That it is not, he makes one salary from his yeshiva. And doesn't take anything else. Never. I've learned by Repairts for 2008, so we're coming up on 10 years. I've never once given him $1. Not a dollar. Never, for anything. He flew to New York to marry me. I paid his ticket, of course, but this whole model of you're not a member of my shul, I can't talk to you. It's foreign. It's a foreign concept. לפיכך בגבעת בנימין שלא היו עוסקים בתורה ובדרך ארץ, and therefore because in Givat Binyamin the rabbis were so busy in their own houses, they didn't teach Torah and derech eretz. והתקבצו ויצאו למלחמה. These are the people who went out to war. ונהרגו בהם 70,000, and the 70,000 people died. ומי הרג את כל אלה? This is the Navi. So who killed all the people in Givat Binyamin? Heavy Omer, you must say, לא הרגו אותם אלא סנהדרין גדולה שניח משה ויהושע בן בן עזר. It was the great Sanhedrin that was established by Moshe and Yehoshua and Pinchas ben Elazar. That's who murdered the 70,000 Jews at Gibeah.
Sanhedrin, corrupt Sanhedrin.
A corruption. And where does the corruption come from? It doesn't come from they were stealing from people. They weren't. They said we don't care. There's a problem facing the Jewish people. It's not our problem. Why do I have to get? I spoke to Rabbi once. He said right now, he's a goy. Why do I have to help him? What do I need to care about him for? Well, it's my job to make people Jewish. No, maybe not. It's not your job, definitely not to be a judge of the Jewish people. That's like a thing. So what am I supposed to do? You're in a situation where you're able to make a difference. And the only thing you're afraid of, Baruch Hashem, the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of my community. My community, I'm not afraid anybody here is going to retaliate against me. I'm very grateful to that. No, but I usually tell, it's not a given. And most rabbis don't have that luxury. But the world, the people, you can't imagine what could happen from such a story. I have a friend now. He's the one who heads this alternative gear business. He's been probably more times on an airplane this year than he's been in his house. In fact, I just reached out. He's converted a few people in the last few months. All he asked for is a plane ticket. Sometimes he even pays his own hotel, his own car. He flies everywhere with the bedin. They travel, they go. And the way that people are persecuting him, the way that people are hating him, and I'm not talking to you about rabbis. The rabbis, it's not a big deal. The rabbis among rabbis could talk. The communities that are persecuting him, the people, the lay people that they don't know the first thing about the laws of conversion. But but it must be if the chief this, if that, if the RCA doesn't accept it. It's as if like, imagine if I told a person that I don't know, there's some medical school and they have a certain. How could you be a doctor if you don't subscribe to the method of that medical school? I mean, how many medical schools there are? And I'm sure they all have different methods. I'm sure they don't agree on a lot of things, but that's the way the field works. If someone's an expert in something, let him be. That's the way Judaism always works. In fact, the strange thing to me is to have a system in which a person who converts to Judaism goes to convert by people who he doesn't even know. And who is vouching for his entrance into the Jewish people? People who've met him 5 times, 10 times, 12 times?
Because the local rabbis don't want to sit.
They're not even allowed to. At the very least, you know what Repairts does? Repairts' rule is he'll come with another rabbi. But the third rabbi in the Beit Din must be the rabbi of the convert. He said, how can I take responsibility for a person when you're the one who knows him? I mean, if you're not willing to sign yourself up on this person, don't sit him a bit, don't bring him to me. The attitude is the exact opposite. It's almost like the rabbi who knows the person, who's had them in his house, who invites them over, who learned with them, that person is not allowed to have a say. I had a story here. I spoke to a rabbi in Los Angeles. I said, you don't get involved. I said, this person is not going to convert, you're just a community rabbi. Okay, that's fine. You'd be amazed sometimes at the things that happen.
So is the reason that the person might be biased in a easy way, in a lenient way, because you become friendly with the person you're helping to convert?
That would be like saying that I shouldn't marry a couple because I know them too well.
I'm just trying to understand if it's more than just politics.
No, it's not. No, it's. In fact, the rabbi of the Beit Din could be somebody who knows them well. Sometimes it happens. The rabbi of the Beit Din, they live in the same city, they know each other well. That's not the problem. The problem is there's a few people who have a stranglehold on. See, in Israel, this is a legal matter, and it's a legal matter that you can't make aliyah, you can't get married, you can't get buried, you can't. There's nothing you can do in Israel if your conversion is not recognized. And so the big complaint is, see, people are using you as a shortcut to make aliyah. And the answer is that already it's been a few years, a long time now, that reform and conservative conversions are accepted in Israel. So if somebody really wanted to take the easy track, he's not coming to an Orthodox Beit Din that happens to be independent. If somebody wants to take the easy track, he's going to go somewhere else where they can do it in 10 minutes.
So if they accept conversions of reform and conservative,
This is the
they
irony.
won't-
The
they
only
won't
conversions that
accept-
are not accepted in Israel
I don't-
are Orthodox conversions that are not approved by the mainstream Orthodox establishment. If I was a
Makes sense.
conservative rabbi, my conversions would be approved in Israel.
It doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't make
What
sense.
about Reconstructionists?
I don't know actually.
That is a-
The Reform and conservative groups have strong rabbinic
Hmm?
bodies that back them.
I don't know,
Reform
know.
conservative, they get right, he can get right in and
They can make aliyah. Now the Supreme Court in Israel passed a law about 6 months ago that the Supreme Court recognizes all Orthodox conversions. Now, how do you prove orthodoxy is an interesting question. That's the fight right now. But if somebody were to do a conversion, they were an Orthodox rabbi, they did a conversion, that conversion would be accepted. This person can now make aliyah in Israel. But the chief rabbinate refuses to accept the Supreme Court's ruling. They say you don't have the right to rule on matters of religion. And therefore, they'll say, it's great. So they can make aliyah. We can't stop you from doing that. But if they want to get married, according to Israeli law, you must get married in a rabbinic court by a rabbi who's approved of by the chief rabbinate. And they say, okay, so let them make aliyah, but we're not going to bury them. We're not going to marry them. We won't let their kids have a bar mitzvah. We won't let their wives go to the mikvah that's owned by the government. And that's exactly what happens today. And who backs it up? You should know. I have my biggest struggle today is the ultra-Orthodox world is so used to rebels and break-offs and Hasidic groups splitting into two that in the ultra-Orthodox world, as long as you look the right way and talk the right way, you can get away with doing anything you want. And it's in fact, the more modern circles in the Orthodox community that abide by these rules for some strange reason that I don't know. I don't understand really why do they abide by rules of rabbis who don't even count them for a minyan. But it's those people who are persecuting this the most. And it's almost ironic, but that's the story here. So if you hear some kind of decision from me sometime in the near future that I'm just going to sign on to this initiative, it might be because of this. But to hear a story today where a person says, I'm giving up to convert because I didn't come to Judaism to follow a religion that also doesn't believe in the Torah. That's incredible.
So this person had enough knowledge under their belt. To
Yeah,
think.
I could have very, very knowledgeable person.
Mhm.
They had
But-
work to do, but they were on the right track. I mean,
But-
it was a person who, they weren't doing it to get married, they were not doing it to get a job, they weren't even doing it to go to Israel, they discovered HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
But what did the Rambam say? In a place where there's no men, be a mensch. Be a man.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, for this young man, why judge by what other people are doing? It's like you judge by what you know is right. And if other people won't live up to the standards, you live up to those standards. You know what I mean?
It's easy to say that, but it's hard to live that way.
It's lonesome, as you and I have talked about.
It is
but,
lonesome. See, but you and I, nobody can come to us and say we're not Jewish.
Right.
They say a lot of things about us.
That's true.
But
That's a
not that
different
we're not
situation.
Jewish.
Right.
For somebody, they could say, you're not even who you pretend to be. There's going to be 11 of us in a room. We're not going to count you for a minyan. We're not going to give you an aliyah. Your child's going to have a bar mitzvah, and it's not going to be an hour.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's
that's a
a
different
really
thing.
tough thing.
Because this is also about community and acceptance and, Kehillat.
So how does anything ever change?
How does it change?
Yeah, if there's not a larger, increasing body of people who are converted alternately to the chief rabbinates. How
What
will it
has to
change?
be is more communities like ours, I'll tell you the truth, where the rabbi is backed up by his community. if there were more, I can't tell you how many rabbis want to join this initiative, and it's not the chief rabbi that they're afraid of, it's the people in their community they're afraid of. It's the brotherhood, it's the sisterhood, it's the ritual committee, it's whoever paints the stained glass windows, whoever it is that does these things, that know a lot about Torah. And if there were a few more rabbis with a few more communities that actually believe in them, the whole situation would change.
How can we do that?
We're working on it. You know, and this is the kind of thing, if you would ask me exactly 2 years ago, so, what's your stance on conversion? I would tell you I have nothing to do with conversion. When they gave the course in yeshiva, I didn't even take it. It's something that wasn't even on and somehow just fell on my lap, fell on my face, I don't know where it fell on, but it fell on, I cannot, every day is another day if I cannot believe the story. And the story, somehow my phone number got around San Diego that I'm doing conversions in San Diego, which I'm not doing it. I'll be honest, I'm not doing it yet. That might change, but the number of phone calls that I've gotten in the last 30 days, unbelievable.
So,
Now, obviously, you have to filter some people, sort through some people, but just the fact that there's an alternative, there's another option. It tells you there needs to be a
Can make
change.
a living just converting people?
No, because everyone calls you how much you charge, don't charge you anything. You know what happened? I'll tell you, I have a couple that I once married. I learned the hard way. One time I was like, what do you take? So I said, I don't know, let's ask the rabbi. I asked another rabbi, what do you charge for weddings? And he said something like 300, I don't know what he said, something like that. I said, it's okay if you want to donate $300. And then that whole wedding, everything that couple wanted to do, it's like they hired me. Like there was the flowers, and there was the music, and there was the rabbi. And so ever since then, every time a couple says, what do you charge? I don't charge anything. So what do you want? I want everything to follow my rules. From the beginning that chuppah begins until the chuppah ends, you don't have a say in how the ceremony is going to work. I will incorporate any customs you want, any songs you want, any style that you want, but you will not be doing a 2-ring ceremony under my chuppah, you won't be holding hands under my chuppah, you won't be undressed under my chuppah. And the reason I'm able to say that is because I'm doing you a favor. I don't need to be here. So who loses out? And maybe I lose out on a few $100s, but I can tell you that every wedding that I've done has been 100% kosher because I've never had to compromise on halakha. The one time that a couple was thinking of not doing a kosher wedding, and I got a heter to do that wedding, I told him, it really makes me uncomfortable. You're inviting me to a not kosher wedding. I have to say, I'm not asking you for anything. Maybe whatever you would spend towards having a rabbi, you could think of investing in kosher food. And I got a quote from the caterer, and I guess the quote wasn't so much more expensive, and they did a kosher wedding. I would never have had the audacity to say such a thing if I would have been paid to do that wedding. I always have that luxury, but by conversions, it's a must. If you want to have the integrity, you must. It can't be that you're doing something. See, if you would imagine this, if you would go to a rabbi in the morning, give him tzedakah, say, I want to help you out with your, I don't know, I heard that you have a bar mitzvah coming up. I want to sponsor part of the bar mitzvah, and then you would be summoned to his court for a din Torah. He wouldn't be allowed to preside over your court because he has an interest. Meaning, how do you know that he's going to be unbiased? So why is it that a Beit Din is allowed to charge people thousands of dollars and then preside over them?
Good question.
So that is for administrative fees. How much goes on in the Beit Din already?
Yeah.
You know what I observed over the years of the Bali Tshuva thing is that the emphasis on was becoming quote-unquote more frum rather than becoming a better, more realized, more thoughtful, kind person. I never heard those words used. It was always, how many observances can you do and how strict can you do it? That was the measure of becoming quote-unquote orthodox.
My parents, when somebody told my parents that he was working to finish the whole Shas. My parents said, why? I said, because I want to finish the whole Shas. I said, what is going to happen when you finish the whole Shas? I said, well then I'll make Hashem happy. I believe. He said, and when did Hashem say that if you finish Shas, he's going to be happy? He said, you invented your own ruler stick, and then now you want everyone to... He said, you think that after 120 years what's going to count is how many pages of Talmud you study? There are a few things Hashem commanded you. To be in awe of Him, to love your fellow person, to make this world a better place, to judge the judgment of orphans and widows, to protect the people who are weak and downtrodden. He said, are you working on any of those things, or are you still studying Bava Kama? I never heard that in my life until I went to Shaar. Never in my life did I hear Rabbi talk about it.
But isn't it commonly known that your job is not to finish, but just to begin?
Perhaps commonly known. And by the way, if you want to finish us, then go for it. But the priorities have to be. you can't be the guy who finishes Shas and I don't know, pushes people when you get on the bus or cuts lines at the grocery store. Like, it can't be that thing.